Welcome to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Joyous conversations about what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about our one reality. You have nothing to fear. You are eternal and you are perfectly loved. Knowing the truth changes everything. Now, here's Roberta.
Welcome to Seek Reality. I'm Roberta Grimes, and I am delighted that you can be with us today. Oh, my dear friends, I am going to introduce you to a lovely man who, like many of us, has been thrown some difficult blows in life. That's what life is for. We're supposed to have things thrown at us. And so that's been true as well of Larry Freeborg. When he was only 40, shortly after Christmas in 1979, he lost his wife to leukemia, and only days later, this was cruel, he lost his job of 18 years. So our dear friend Larry was a widowed father of 4 with no income, no future that he could see, nothing at all. What followed for Larry wasn't a quick recovery either, but instead it was decades of journeying, learning how to grieve for one thing, how to do it properly, learning how to lead with love and how to rediscover hope in the face of an unimaginable loss. Along the way, he discovered a simple but powerful truth. No matter what life takes away from us, you are always what he calls at choice. Today, Larry is the author of a book called Always at Choice, and he's the founder of Stepping Through the Gate, which is a wise elder coaching service. Through his writing and coaching, he helps individuals to move from significant losses into a place of healing, renewal, and fully engaged life possibilities. He also partners with business leaders to clarify what they want to create in the workplace, working side by side to navigate challenges and unlock solutions. For the past 30 years, Larry Freeborg has been an independent coach and consultant. But before that, Larry spent more than 20 years in the corporate world, first at 3M companies in marketing, new business ventures, and industrial graphics, and then 5 years with Medtronic marketing implantable defibrillators, pacemakers, and other heart-regulating products. He's a graduate of the University of Minnesota, and he was a top collegiate swimmer in the region. Wow, I don't swim, so all of this is kind of making me tired already. Always at Choice follows his inclusion in the book, Turning Point Moments. So he's done a lot with his life, I have to say. With the publication of Always at Choice, Larry's mission is simple, yet it's also profound, to remind others that while loss changes everything, it never takes away your power to choose. And you do always have the power to choose to heal, to grow, and then to live again, no matter what happens to your life. Larry, welcome. I'm so happy to have you with us today.
I'm happy to be here.
Now, look, I read a good part of your book, and actually what I loved most, I have to tell you, was that you used horses as part of your healing, because I had a horse for a good part of my life. I got my first pony when I was I think I was 5 years old, and she was a killer pony, as many ponies are. No child should have a killer pony, but I had one, and she kept trying to buck me off. But on the other hand, I learned to stay on, and when you do that, yeah, my goodness, you can do just about anything in life once you've learned to stay on your killer pony. I just have to say that.
Well, actually, I started my work with horses being afraid of horses. I had been out at Glacier National Park, and I had a horse run away with me on it. And it was frightening to be able to dodge all the branches and the stuff from the trees that we were running through. And unfortunately, I didn't have enough nerve to get back on the horse and take the horse back to the hitching post.
Oh
And the
dear.
wrangler who let me use the horse never let me ride a horse again from Glacier National Park. And then I went to a workshop on riding, and somebody said, you were complimented on the fact that you stayed on the horse. And, I thought about that. I had two ways of looking at it. One, that I was being punished. The other one was I had stayed on that horse. And later on, I was in a workshop, and the horses were at liberty. And this white horse came up to me, and the horse that ran away with me on it happened to be a white horse. And I say, hey, Gus, either you or one of your buddies ran away with me on it. And he said, I said, what would you do? He said, get over it and move on. That was what I got as the message from this horse is get over it and move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I practiced working with some warm blood horses. I knew that I didn't know enough about horses to really work with them. So when I would work with horses, I'd always have somebody who really understood the horse. I understood watching the horse and finding out what the horse was telling me about the person. But boy, do they go deep fast when you're coaching people and helping them move through the stuck areas that they're in. So I've really been grateful to having horses in my life, and that's where the stepping through the gate came from too. I was running workshops, and I had this one woman that was part of my workshop say, wow, he says, I really have to be thank you, because you've opened up the gate, allowed me to pass through the gate to do what I've always wanted to do. And I've never had the courage to do it, and you've opened that possibility up for me. So stepping through the gate became the name of my business once I really started doing work with horses. Unfortunately, I don't do it right now, but who knows? I might put it back together again and try it because it's so effective.
Well, horses are wonderful. They're some of the nicest people I've ever known were horses.
Yes.
And my favorite, best horse I've ever known, I owned him since he was 6 months old, and he finally died at the age of 30. And I
Wow.
promised him when he was dying of old age, really, I promised him that he would be my last horse, and that I would ride him when I finally get home, and I will. And my spirit guide has promised me that he will come for me at my deathbed. So that's what I look for now.
That's
Bo coming to
wonderful.
my deathbed.
Yeah. You know what happened? I was going through a somatic coaching course, coaching through the body. And up until that time, I always thought that it was language and emotion, but I never knew that the emotions were trapped in the body. And part of my somatic coaching course was that they had this equine part of the program. And I was so impressed with what I saw happen, mostly with women, by the way, that there was a big group. There were 60 of us that were taking the course at the time. And I could tell that just by the way that the women were, is that they probably were in some sort of an abusive relationship at home because they just didn't have any power. And that showed up with a horse, that when they went out to work with the
Yeah.
horse, they couldn't get the horse to move. The horse would wander through their space. So I was really fascinated about that, and I began to work on my master's degree on equine guided coaching. And so I traveled over the United States, and also I went to Europe, to Germany, to work with the guy that started up the equine coaching program in Germany. And so I was at the beginning when people asked, when I'd say I was a coach, they say, well, what sport do you coach? It's so early in the process, but coaching is really, for me, it's a lot different than being a therapist. It's not that therapy is bad, because I've obviously used it more than once, but there's a whole different aspect of supporting people from a coaching perspective, because you really start with the premise that the people can do the job You just need to help them navigate through it and make some choices to take the action they need to take.
Well, obviously, you have become very successful now, but that's not where you were. I read the first part of your book, and I mean, this destroyed you. You lose your wife, you lose your career in in the beginning, and you had children who were relatively young. The oldest was only, I think, in teens or
Right.
something that in that range. So you were a mess at the start. And talk about that. I mean, what am I going to do now? You were not very old. You were 40. I mean, that's a real grown up at that point. But how do you become a grown up when you've had your life destroyed?
I'm just going to add a couple of things to that story. One of them is that 10 days after the funeral, I had to go to my office and terminate 10 people. So that was another emotional shock. But
Yeah.
what really, when they took the job away after 18 and a half years, the unemployment was 7.4%, which is higher than the unemployment is today. And so I was really concerned about what am I going to do to create income to raise my family. And like you said wisely, I didn't get through it really fast. What happened is I tried to do all the things that I was doing before. I was very active in my community. I was heading up a Kiwanis Club. I was heading up a AFS. I was heading up a Hastings Rivertown Days. And what I found is I wasn't able to keep my promises. And eventually that really bothered me that I wasn't able to be responsible in what I was doing. And I ended up breaking down and crying at the office. And that's when I finally asked for help. And I started with my dad. I said, I'd like to just go for a 3-day trip and clear my head and try to figure out what my path forward is. And he said, well, is there anybody at the office that might give you some help? So I said, well, yeah, I think so. So I called the psychiatrist from the office. And after he saw me and after he heard my story, he said, will you be willing to put yourself in the psych ward? Back then, psych ward was kind of a nasty term.
Right.
But I was already doing consulting using outside consultants to help me in my job. So I thought, well, if I can use somebody in my business life to consult and help me, what's wrong with me using someone in my personal life and letting them help me? So the big lesson was learning how to ask for help. And that's where I started when I went into the psych ward, was learning how to ask for help. That's been a big part of my life journey, is that I don't stay stuck very long. I do get stuck. I'm not going to say that I don't, but what I've learned is not to stay stuck, and that I'm always a choice. And one of the choices are that I can ask for help.
Well, I think that's a very big tip because especially
Yes.
men have this stubbornness about them. They've got to be soldiers, good soldiers. And if something knocks them down, they got to get up by themselves. They got to figure it out themselves, and they've got to fix it themselves. They can't ask for help. They're supposed to know everything, right?
Yeah, well,
That's how men are.
just think of the cartoons that we watched back in our youth. Superman, Mighty Mouse, all those things were people that did it on their own. So that's what you think you're supposed to do. But once you learn the lesson of learning how to ask for help, boy, does your life become easy.
Easier,
Easier.
maybe.
It doesn't become easy, but it becomes easier when you ask for help.
That's right. That's right. Obviously, it would have been a whole lot easier if what had precipitated all of this had not been the loss of your wife,
Right.
because you have a wife, you have someone to talk to, you have someone who understands, you have someone to help you. That's the hardest part of all in this that we haven't even mentioned. Here you are fundamentally alone.
Yes, well, it took me about 15 years before I found my second wife, who unfortunately just passed away a year and a half ago. And so I'm going through some of the same things that I did when Shirley passed away, but I've been there before. I know that it doesn't last forever. I can be sad for a while, but I know it doesn't last forever. And I also know that I'm a choice. I'm a choice if I want to live in grief and just be sad all the time. That's my life that I'm throwing away now, not hers. She's already passed away. She's not going to be alive again. I can only remember her in terms of the wonderful person she was in her life with me. But
But you will see her again, my dear.
right,
You can look forward to, and you can look forward to seeing two of them.
yeah,
You have two wives now waiting for you. And my mother-in-law, when she was elderly, she had two husbands waiting for her. And the
uh,
question she asked me was, "Oh no, who am I going to be married to now?" Is that a worry you have now?
yeah. Well, since I loved both of them and they were both great experiences. Um, Dodie's experience was she was really the wind beneath my wings. She had a sense for, she had been a vice president of a bank, and so she had the ability to hold things in a different perspective than my younger wife did. And, but she was a great partner. She basically supported me to fly. And that was, and if you're exactly right, the tough part is not having somebody to communicate with, not sharing your ideas, getting some feedback about
Yeah.
what you thought, what you're thinking right now. Um, so,
Yes, if you were a good husband and if they were good wives, that is a terrible thing not to have a wife in your life
right.
to talk to have support you. That's a hard thing.
Well, that's the reason that I made the choice to move from my forever home in Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, which really looked out on a river. It was just the most beautiful sight. My wife was an outstanding decorator, so the house was lovely. And it took me a while to be willing to leave that, but I needed to be around people. So that's the choice that I've made to live here at the lakes in Stillwater, is so that I could be around people and share their life experiences and support them. And it's taken me a while to adjust, but it just takes time.
It does take time, yes. And the answer to my mother-in-law's question, but oh no, I've got two husbands there. Which one is my husband now? The answer to that question is you're not married when you go home.
Right?
So you don't have to worry about that. You can have them both, actually. You can live with them both.
Yeah.
But when I communicated with her afterwards, she said that she had seen her first husband, but that had been so long ago that he had his own life there now in the afterlife. And so she was with her second husband. But she had worried about that quite a bit before she then transitioned too. It's
Well,
life is complicated wherever you are, even in the afterlife. A little bit
well,
complicated.
when I look, one of the things that, of course, that always you get in touch with how to deal with fear,
Yes.
which is really important. And so the first thing is that I see the word fear as an acronym for false expectations appearing real.
Yes. Isn't that great? Say that again because people need to think of that. Fear. What is fear? Say it
False
again.
expectations appearing real.
False expectations appearing
Re-
real.
Right.
Beautiful. Beautifully said.
So two of the lessons that I share in my book, one is about whitewater rafting. So I had a
Wow.
I was down in Costa Rica. I wanted to find out if my planning process worked in other cultures. So I tried it in Australia and also Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, I could do whitewater rafting. So I'm going to celebrate my ability to whitewater raft with my son, who's just graduated from Carleton College. And we take the first day, that was pretty easy. The second day had a wave in it that I think my recollection of it is that it was 23 feet in circumference, maybe 18 feet high.
Wow.
Anyway, when the raft hit that particular wave, we were told that if you hit it with enough force, you'll get up on top of the wave. But if you don't hit it with enough force, that wave will just flip you over and they'll toss you out like toothpicks. I
Oh,
was a
gee.
toothpick. And
Whoa.
I woke, when the whole thing was done, I found myself underneath the raft with lots of air bubbles around. And I'm busy trying to hold on to my sandals. And finally, I'm saying, Freeborg, this doesn't make a lot of sense. You better get out where there's some real air instead of fussing around
Yeah,
with.
a little bit of air is going to be necessary, right? Very soon.
Yeah. And then the next morning, the very first wave that we hit, I got bounced out again. So now I'm really getting concerned and afraid. And I'm thinking, what have I gotten my son and I into? So that evening, there was a bunch of river guides from the United States that were taking advantage of Costa Rica weather. And I said, surely you've dealt with people that got afraid on a rafting trip. I said, what do you generally tell them? Well, the first guide was really pretty interesting. He said, you know, what I experienced is people have these experiences of being flipped out. And so they anticipate the river and they see one rapid and then they see another rapid on top of it and another rapid on top of it. And pretty soon they're trying to go over the whole big rapid at one time. He said, I suggest you take one rapid at a time. That was an experience that made a lot of sense to me.
Yes.
So I talked to the next river guide. He said, well, you know, I think that there are more accidents that happen on the shoreline with people playing badminton and catch and volleyball than happen on the river. And so if you get flipped out, just follow the rules, float down feet first, and, don't step in the river or break a leg. But there'll be a kayak person that will pick you up, and so it's generally pretty safe. So that was a good. The third guy really touched my heart because he said, you know, Larry, you're here to have fun. So what I suggest is you take a cool, where the water is smooth, and just jump in the water. It's pleasant, it's warm. It's 30 degrees warmer than the States right now. And that I thought, my word, here I am, the swimmer that was part of a record-setting record at University of Minnesota, and I'm afraid of the water? Doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't either. No.
No, so that whole idea of taking one rapid at a time has been a big lesson for me, that not to get so far ahead of myself that I'm just stacking up the fear on top of each other. And that was the same thing for doing the ropes course and climbing the cliffside, is that I got up out on the side of the mountain okay. You know, I struggled a little bit, but not bad. But when I got to the top of the mountain, to jump off the top of the mountain and be suspended by somebody on a belay rope scared the heck out of me. I just, even now, if I talk about it, I can feel the fear in my throat or in my chest. But it took me about 40 minutes to get enough nerve to just say, well, there's a sign from another program. Oh, what the heck, go for it anyway. But so anyway, I went down, but that was a big learning experience, that I could make up in my mind stories about how it was going to be bad, which is what I did, by the way, in writing the book. I had all these stories about I wasn't good enough, I couldn't tell the
Oh,
stories,
yeah, yeah. Oh,
and
you can talk
and
yourself out of so many wonderful things,
yes, and I'm
foolish
sure you
things.
had to go through these things too to be an attorney. And what you're doing now is that I just had to make a choice. I
Yep,
asked myself one time, I said, "Well, Freeborg, you've talked about writing this book for a long time.
yep.
Are you going to write the book or you're not going to write the book? You're a choice." And I said, "Well, I don't know how to write. So, okay, well, let's find a place where you can get some writing help. And I find a publisher. You can't go to the regular big name Simon and Schuster's, and you don't have an agent. So just publish your own book." And so I found what was an outstanding self-publishing company. And the first thing I did is I hired a writing coach to help me write the first couple of chapters.
Yes, it's amazing the help people can get now to write, just to write.
Yeah.
I've been writing weekly articles that I post every week for the past weekly for the past I think 12 years now. So I write that, and I just do a lot of writing, and now I'm writing novels. So which I'm about to start start recording or publishing rather. So I do a lot of writing, so I don't really need that help. But for people who do, there is wonderful help now. There are a lot of people who will do that, I've noticed on the internet. So that, yes, and your book reads very well. So clearly you got some help, and that's a wonderful thing. And it has that wonderful ship right on the cover, which I just thought was beautiful. Tell a story of that ship.
Yes. Oh, by the way, I had a wonderful editor on my book also that really made the difference. The That particular ship is a result of my doing a copper rubbing in the psych ward. You know, they give you an art project. And so I was doing this project, and what came to me is that this is like me. I'm leaving the dark side and going into the light side. I'm not going to do it all alone. I'm going to have a bunch of sailors helping me put the sails out to capture the wind so I can take this big boat that has all these great ideas forward. And so it became kind of I still have it on my desk today. It's just a nice place to go get reassurance that I'm not going to do it all alone. I'm going to do it if I ask for
Oh,
help,
beautiful.
and
That's
I'm fill up the
beautiful.
sail, and I'm going to get a lot of the things done that I wanted to get done in my life.
But you're not having to do it alone. You have that beautiful ship and
Right,
all the people who are the crew. They're all helping you to do it. To,
right.
and but you're going to be the captain. It's going to be your story. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you. Yeah, it what I did with the book is that I what I wanted to be was not some platitudes from somebody that's just talking about their ideas.
Hmm.
All those ideas came from experiences and the choices that I made about the experiences. Now, I tried some things that didn't work, so they didn't get included in the book. But if they worked for me, and I set up my belief systems around that basis, I felt they could work for others. And so far, it's been proving out to be true.
Yes. And I wanted to say something about the horses and the fact that horse therapy works especially well for women. It does.
Oh,
And,
absolutely.
and the reason that it does is that women so often are overmatched by males, by men in their lives, and just in general by males, and by
Right,
who are stronger. But the thing about a well-trained horse is that they are stronger, clearly. And
right.
yet, a well-trained horse will submit so beautifully to a woman. And to be able to ride that bigger, obviously stronger horse and to master it so well.
Yeah.
My horse was a gelding. It was a male. The horse that I loved through his whole life was a male. And that is so beautiful for women to be able to do that, to have this horse that they love, that they care for, who loves them and who cares for them. That's just so freeing and so empowering for women. I can't begin to tell you. I've seen it over and over again with friends of mine, with especially when I was a teenager and a young adult, just, finding my own wings, my own ability to fly and do everything I could do. Yes, horses are wonderful for women, especially for women.
There's
Beautiful.
a program for youth in Amarillo, Texas, disadvantaged youth that are taken to this program. And both the guys and the gals go out and they lunge a horse. Well, the guys go out, and if they're young men, if they're angry,
Yeah.
the horse doesn't want to spend any time
No,
with them.
that's absolutely right.
They're out of here. And so the young man has to learn how to manage his emotions, so to speak. Now,
Yeah.
the young girls don't have, let's say, enough. They haven't found their center, their energy center, their power. So they have to learn how to send the energy out to get the horse to run on the lunge line. And it's just beautiful to see that.
Yes.
I've done it with my daughter, who thought that she was putting out lots of energy and lots of power. And I said, and she couldn't get the horse to work. And finally, the horse person that I was working with said, you need to set some energy out here. Let that horse know that what you want him to do. Made all the difference in how Shelley approached her business after that particular experience.
Yeah. It's really a wonderful thing working with horses
It
for
is,
young people.
I love it.
It's
Yeah.
excellent. So you gradually then strengthened yourself,
Yes.
got yourself back under control. You had already a lot of knowledge about business. You had worked in business for quite a long time,
Right.
but then your children sort of got their feet under them, and they all got their educations, and they all got free and started to fly. And then you decided that working with people was what you wanted to do. You wanted to teach and counsel people, I guess.
Well, it kind of fell into the need. There's a book out called Customer Intimacy, and it talks about what are the rules. And one of the things is to solve complex problems and take responsibility for results and to stay ahead of what your customers need. Well, I was a really good facilitator. I could get people really clear about what they wanted to create and be united as a team to do it. But then when they wanted to take action, and I limit them to 5 goals, sometimes they couldn't take action. And I said, well, I could try to sell them on taking action. I could consult them, be an advisor, a consultant, give them advice. That didn't work either. So that's when I began to learn about coaching. And it was in the coaching part that I realized that many times the belief systems that they had picked up as kids, young people, and their belief systems about what could happen and what couldn't happen, that held them back from taking the action they needed to take to get the results. And so I began to learn about coaching. And the first coach was doing some work with Newfield Network, and then I went from Newfield Network to Strozzi Institute, and then I went into the equine coaching, and then I did Byron Katie, and I mean all these. It turns out that there's no one way. I mean, you could think that, well, if I found the magical elixir here, it's going to
Nothing
work.
good.
Well, that's not true. You might need to use different ideas about how to help people make a different choice so they can take the action that they need to take. The lesson that came out of that was that to be an observer of the observer I am. And the reason is that because a lot of times if I look at the problem, I am the problem in terms of how I'm looking at the problem. It's not the problem itself. But if I can shift how I look at the problem, sometimes I can solve it. So just little, I would call them Freeborgisms, little messages that I got through my journey. My kids give me a lot of, they talk about Freeborgisms, they like you're always a choice and, you know, have, I do belief systems to manage my mood because I think that's my responsibility to manage my mood. Is that I've learned from all the readings that I've done that you can't get very much done if you're negative. So what do you have to do to manage yourself so that you can be positive? Well, the lesson that I learned is a lot of people use gratitudes, and I think that's terrific. But the thing that works better for me is blessings. I'm going to explain blessings. Blessings are things that come to me that I don't have any control over. This is really my connection with my higher power. So that means birds, trees, flowers, sunshine, blue sky, lakes. All those things are things that come to me that I don't have any control over, but they are things for me to appreciate and to celebrate that can make my mood positive. And I do a lot more better when I have a positive mood than if I have a negative mood.
That's for sure. I think that's true of all of us.
Yes, it is. I mean, I'm not suggesting anything new here. I'm just applying
Yes.
the lessons I learned from other teachers that also worked for me, and I'm just sharing them.
Yeah. Yeah. What works best?
Yeah,
Um, Certainly it's anything that's got love anywhere near it is going to lift your mood and make you feel more positive about everything.
that's true.
I
Yeah,
think
yeah, it's not just like there's not one way of coaching.
yes.
I'm just sharing a way that I use. I'm not even saying it's the way. It's a
Yeah.
way that I found works for me.
Yeah.
And if it works for you, I love it if you'd adopt it.
Well, what I think is great about your book is that it gives these ideas, which are your discovered ideas, but also which are time-tested ideas. I don't see that they're new, but I just see that they're solid and they're proven ideas. But it gives them from a male perspective. I mean, we've had other guests whose ideas are very near yours, but they're women have had these ideas. They come to, I think every guest whose I could compare your book to has been a female, has been a woman who has uh,
Wow.
maybe lost a child and or lost a couple of children, or that's the kind of book this is. I would have to put it in a category like that. But there are always women who have written these books, and you've taken the time and laid your heart out here and done it as a man, which I think is very positive for men who are listening, who have had these experiences, and many men have had them. And men, as we just said a little while ago, are supposed to be so tough.
Right.
Uh, this society requires them not to be softies anywhere in their lives, and that's wrong because, frankly, men are just women who grow beards, really.
They have a belief system, and you have to get in touch with where did they develop the belief system that they were supposed to be the tough person. I watch a lot of Westerns, not because they're really good, but because they're easy. But I mean, if I watch Gunsmoke and Wagon Train and all those particular things, and you watch how they treat horses. Back in the old days, the movies were always about, you know, really, I'm going to control this horse and I'm going to jump around on him and all the other stuff. And of course, all of a sudden, the movie came out with The Horse Whisperer, and you find out there's a whole different way of connecting up with horses. But even today, there's still some guys that think that the way of really working with the horse is to be strong and powerful with them. And of course,
And you hit them with the ends of those reins, and
yeah, and they try to use that with their kids, and it doesn't work with their kids either.
no,
Yeah.
no.
But, you know,
You've made yourself vulnerable in your book and shown how that is a way, and then you look for the help, and that's how you make yourself strong. And I think this is women can benefit a lot from your book, but men can certainly benefit a lot from your book. You can go out there, you can ask for help, you can get the help, and you can make yourself strong. And I think that's a great lesson for men to learn.
that's very inspiring. Thank you very much for that message, because I'm struggling with that right now, like what's next. And I just spoke to somebody here at the senior center about, because we have a lot of men here, but the whole idea is you're absolutely right. I knew from experience, especially when you work with horses, you go to a horse workshop and it's 90% women, 10% guys. It's just the guys, that's why the whole thing about treating PTSD is working with horses, with guys, because guys are in the military and war, and
Yeah.
they've got to release the emotions, and the horse brings it out in them. We could help a lot of guys live more fulfilling, satisfying lives, and also becoming doing a lot more for the world with a different way of looking at how to show up for their kids, for their wives, for their friends. So anyway, my point is that you've inspired me to take a look at what I'm doing here and maybe having a program that talks about men looking at that they're always a choice. I sit with some guys for breakfast and they lament about growing old is tough. You know, it's not all that was, so it's all negative talk. Well, that doesn't do me very good to just be in a negative talk
No,
situation.
tell them now is when they have a precious opportunity
Yeah,
to open themselves to be who they truly are. They don't have to be Mr. Tough Guy anymore.
right.
They can ask for help and receive it,
Yeah,
and they can use it to grow. They can ask for love and receive it, not from a woman necessarily,
no,
from other guys. And
it's really,
they're past needing to care about sexual love. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about kindness.
yeah,
We're talking about the kind of love they got in a family when they had a family. But this time to open their hearts to
yeah,
each other, to talk about things that hurt before, but they don't have to hurt anymore.
right.
This is genuine love we're talking about now. There's so much you can do because you have learned so much in just living this life you've had to live
Yeah.
from having so many losses that you had to overcome. You can really coach people now. You can coach men especially because you had to do it for yourself.
Yeah. That's encouraging words, my dear. Thank you.
Okay, we've come to the end of our time. What do you want people to take away from what we've talked about today?
That there's life at the end of the tunnel, light at the end of the tunnel, that they don't have to be in a dark space, that there is a way out. Actually, the book has some ideas of how to get out of being in a dark space. And there's always opportunities for sadness and depression, but you don't have to stay there. You can move out and
I
move
liked it
on,
better the way you said it the first time. There's life at the end of the tunnel.
right?
There truly is. I think that what you've done with that book is really wonderful, and I hope that especially a lot of men will read it because they'll see themselves in what you went through, and they'll see what they can do for themselves, perhaps, and what you've done to grow out of a lot of the things you've had to go through. My
And it
dear.
happened by accident. It wasn't like I had a big master plan that's how it was going
No.
to go. In fact, for 20 years, I thought the book was going to be about strategic planning and business development. And the more that I practiced writing, the more that the always that choice kept coming back at me. That's the lesson that I'd like to teach. Always that choice. And so if people go to Amazon, it's always at choice.net. It's not always at choice.com. It's always at choice.net. And then my coaching site is um, steppingthrough-the-gate.com. And what I offer is that if somebody just wants to talk and listen, having somebody listen to where they're at, there's a free consulting session that they can sign up for, and we can just take it from there.
Wait, will you send me all of your website information, all those free, I guess, websites? Because we put those on the with the information at the bottom of this description.
I'll do that right away.
Okay, thank you, dear.
You're
All right,
welcome.
all
Thank
right,
you for
so
the wonderful conversation.
well, stay where you are. I just have to let people know who our guest is next week.
Okay?
So once again, my dear ones, we've come to the end of our time together, and this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. I'm so happy you could be with us today. Please never forget that you are a powerful, eternal being. You never began and you never will end. And when you really get the implications of that simple fact, it changes everything in your life for the better. Our guest next week will be Peter Hayes. He'll be with us for the fifth time. He comes each year about this time of year, and he does that because he comes to talk about the U.S. Spiritist Federation, which is just about to have its 20th annual Spiritist Convention here in the United States, and Peter will be here to tell us all about it. Peter Hayes works at the Spiritist group Love and Light in Newark, New Jersey. He's also the current outreach director of the United States Spiritist Federation, USSF it's called, and an active participant in the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, or TSSF. Peter has published several children's books with his wife, Betty Rosen, through their company, which is Sem Frontieres Press. These people are from Brazil, as I think you realize. And there are other publishers in Brazil, Colombia, and the other United States sort of southern branches, which publish their books as well. Peter has an extensive background in theater, and he holds a Master's of Fine Arts in Dramatic Writing from New York University. He works in commercial real estate, and he is just a delightful guest. We always enjoy so much having him here, so I hope you can join us next week. And of course, our guest this week has been the delightful Larry Freeborg. He has been here to tell us about the fact that it's always your choice when horrible things happen to rebuild your life and to make yourself whole again. He lost his wife, he lost his job, and he has had 4 children to finish raising. And like it or not, he had to carry on, so he did carry on. His book is not very long. It's wonderful to read, to watch how Larry rebuilt his life, rebuilt his work, and he triumphed so well that he even wrote a book about his efforts and his successes. And my dear ones, the process that Larry undertook and learned so well is the same process that you and I and everybody came to learn on Earth. It's not easy. We're all beginners in the beginning, but we all know that life isn't easy, and we can make our own lives beautiful no matter what happens to us. Larry's book is called Always at Choice. It's not very long, but it's beautiful, and it's sweet, and it's true. I recommend it to men, but to anybody who has been dealt some tough breaks in life. And now we have totally run out of time. So meanwhile, this has been Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Please enjoy, please make the most of this coming week in our one reality that we always share together. So be kind to one another, always knowing that you are a powerful, eternal being, and you, most of all in this entire universe, you are infinitely, eternally, and perfectly loved.
You've been listening to Seek Reality with Roberta Grimes. Roberta blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Join us every week as we explore what the afterlife evidence and modern science combine to tell us is true about the one reality we all share. Knowing the truth changes everything.